Welcome everyone, Farmer Cop here. Today we're going to have a quick guide on everything you need to know about growing sugar beets in Farming Simulator 19. If this is what you're looking for, please stay tuned. Alright folks, today we're going to go over everything you need to know about growing sugar beets in Farming Simulator 19. This is on a modded map. I am on Alien Gyms map, No Man's Land, just because it's easier to get equipment down here, easier to set up, and I did create this field. If you want to learn how to create fields, there'll be a video that I made on how to create fields linked below in the description. Also note that we're going to go over only base game equipment. There's other stuff. I might mention a mod here and there, but we're only going to go over specifically the base game equipment today. So first off, I want to take a look at the growth stages for sugar beets. So sugar beets are very similar in a lot of ways to potatoes, and also there's a link to a video on how to grow potatoes below in the description. So the growth stages, so essentially this is just a cultivated field here. This will also work if you have a plowed field, so you can also plant on a plowed field. Here is sugar beets planted. Here's sugar beets in the first growth stage right here, and the second growth stage is going to be looking something like this. This is the third growth stage, which I know it's kind of hard to tell the difference, really. If you look at it, they're just a little bit taller, so just a very slight difference. You can kind of see the line right up here, so not a big difference. And then in the final growth stage is right here, where it's still pretty hard to see the difference. So note that since these are a root crop, instead of showing up as harvest in the menu, so if we go into the map here, instead of showing up as ready to harvest like most crops will, it will show up as remove tops, which is essentially the same thing. So it means it's ready to harvest, but you have to remove the tops before you can harvest. And we'll talk about all that as we go through the different stages. So what we are going to do now is we are going to jump into the equipment. All right, and here we are taking a look at some of the equipment. So just like I do in all my other crop tutorial videos, I'm going to divide this up into stages. So this is stage one that we're going to go over first, which is field prep. So as far as field prep goes, I have a plow here, just a basic plow and a basic cultivator. You will have to do one of these. However, if you are growing sugar beets regularly, or if you are playing with periodic plowing required, which is an option over here, and if we look, and it is right here. So if periodic plowing is required, you'll need to plow every time after you grow sugar beets. And there's several other crops as well that you need to do that. And that information is found in the guide. Improving yield. Plow after corn, potatoes, sugar beets, and sugarcane, otherwise minus 15%. Otherwise, you just have to plow your field every 3 harvests on every other crop. So plowing is required if you're trying to get the best yield on your crops. You're going to want to plow every time. However, it's not required if you're not too worried about the yield and you just want to grow sugar beets, then you can cultivate. So cultivating is also an option to prepare it. So stage 2 is going to be planting. So you are going to use a planter. So a planter is going to grow several crops. You're not going to use a seeder. Potatoes require a specialized planter. However, the difference between, or one of the differences between potatoes and sugar beets, as sugar beets no longer require a specialized planter or seeder. They use a planter. And then again, this is a planter, not a seeder, and I'm going to show you all of this in the store after we look at all the equipment out here. Stage 3 is going to be field care. Just like any other crop, every 3 harvests, you're going to need to put lime down on the field using a lime spreader such as this. And this also spreads solid fertilizer. And you'll also need to deal with weeds, which you can deal with weeds either with a weeder early on, or you can use herbicides such as what would be sprayed out in this tank here. And now also this tank can also do liquid fertilizer, and this can do solid fertilizer. In addition to that, you can use cover crop, which I'm not going to go over that. You can use cover crop, as well as you can use solid fertilizer in your planter if you have one set up to do that while it's planting. And you can also use liquid manure or solid manure to fertilize as well. And there's 2 fertilizer states. So if we go into the map here, you'll be able to turn on those fertilizer states over here in this menu. So this will show, again, I didn't take very good care of this field, so it has 2 fertilizer states, which is great, indicated by the dark blue. So that'd be the first state, and that'd be the second state. And then there's no fertilizer states on these guys. This field has not, or has been plowed, I guess, but it has not been limed. So we're not going to get the best yield we possibly could off of this. And I'm actually playing with weeds turned off, which you can do as well if you want to, right here. And normally in my gameplays will play with weeds turned on, but just for the sake of the tutorial, I turned it off. This is not a tutorial about yield of sugar beets. We'll talk briefly about their yield in general, but not specifically. Okay, so that's just like any other crop, you have to take care of them. So lime every 3 harvests, 2 fertilizer states, as well as you're going to need to deal with weeds with either a weeder or using herbicide. So stage 4 is where it gets a little bit different. So this is harvesting. So there are several harvesters available in base game for sugar beets. So we're going to go over a couple here. There's essentially 2 options. There's one that's tractor mounted, and there's one that's going to be an all-in-one unit. So There are 3 all-in-one units in game. This is the lowest level or the cheapest one. And then there's only one option for a tractor mounted unit. So the tractor mounted unit, this first part here, you can use separately to this if you want to. So if you have a less powerful tractor, you could run this first across the field, then run this. You have to do it in that order. This is going to remove top, so it's going to satisfy. If we go back into here, we remember that remove top state that it had right here. So that'll satisfy that requirement, and then it'll be ready to harvest, which you can then drive over it with this, and this will dig the sugar beets out of the ground. You unload this like any other combine. There's a similar function in the potato video where it talks about potato harvesting. So this does not cut the tops off as well as harvest, so it will not do it. You have to cut the tops off first. And again, you can do those separately, and you can hire workers to do every single thing on here except for transporting the sugar beets, which we will talk about later. So the next option, again, is a self-propelled harvester, which is an all-in-one unit. This will remove the tops and harvest them at the same time. That will be with all of the self-propelled harvesters, and again, we'll use this in a second. So, and we'll demonstrate some harvesting as well. So here you go. Here's harvesting. This is what you need to know as far as harvesting goes. All right, moving on. This is for kind of the transport and storage section. I'm going to call this stage 5. So this will pick up piles of sugar beets off the ground and load them into a trailer. This is not required. This is an extra device you can use if you're doing a massive sugar beet farm. It may be really useful for you. And again, I'll demonstrate what it does in a bit. Sugar beets are transported just like any other crop in a regular trailer, not a bulk goods trailer, just a bulk goods trailer like anything else. So, and I'll show you this all in the store. All right, so before we continue, as I said, we're going to go over all this in the store. So if I hit P to go into the store, we'll go over to, first let's talk about the first part of what we were talking about here. So plows are only found under plows. All these will satisfy a plowing requirement. You also can use a subsoiler to satisfy that plowing requirement. And then if you're just going to cultivate and you're not worried about plowing, then you can either use a cultivator, a disc harrow, or a power harrow. And again, this is the one I have out, but it does not matter which one you use. You just can't use the seeder versions. And those ones, if you don't know, will plant these crops while they're plowing at the same time. So those are the ones you can't use. All right, and then moving on to crop protection or to field care, we're going to go into here. This is going to have your liquid fertilizer spreaders, which also spread herbicide, so liquid fertilizer and herbicide. This is going to have your solid fertilizer spreader. So this one only does solid fertilizer. These ones will do solid fertilizer and lime, which we talked about. Okay, so and then weeders as well. If you get it early on, you can use a weeder to get rid of the weeds early on mechanically without any use of spraying or anything else like that if you're going to play with weeds on. All right, the next step is going to be harvesting. So we'll go into beet technology here. Here is the top cutter. So this is going to be what's going to remove the tops of the sugar beets and they're ready to harvest, and this is going to be what's going to pull them in the ground. And these are both operated by tractors. These are the headers to the 3 machines we're going to talk about. This is the one I have out now. And again, you can see these are very pricey pieces of equipment, and these ones are not terribly cheap either. But if we go into the actual harvesters themselves, I have this guy out, which again, $375 is fairly pricey. You also have these 2 options as well as bigger harvester units. This is going to hold 30,000 liters of sugar beets, 45,000 and 43,000. Moving over, this is the one I have out here. This is what's going to pick up sugar beets off the ground. There's another option as well. And again, I just grabbed the first one. This one's actually a bit cheaper. So notice the working width changes. This is a little bit wider working width than this one here. And again, these are not required. And if we go into trailers for transport, most trailers will have sugar beets in them right down there. So some of the trailers such as, see if I can find one, these style here, which are just designed to carry these types of goods, will not hold sugar beets as well. So just be aware of that. And again, sugar beets are in general stored on the ground in piles or inside of barns or sheds. So that's where they're kind of stored. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to get a harvester set up to go, and we're going to work on harvesting some sugar beets. All right, here we are with the self-propelled harvester. So first thing I want to talk about before we get into this is crop destruction. If you have crop destruction turned on, this will destroy crops, just like normal tires will. As you can see there, we're destroying sugar beets. However, if you cut the tops off using the cutter over there, you are then able to drive over it without destroying them. So just a note on that. And again, we're going to hire a worker because we can. There you have it. We're collecting sugar beets, and again, the tank is filling up fast. All right, we'll go ahead and unhire this guy, and now we're going to use the all-in-one for the tractor. All right, here's the tractor setup, and I disconnected the harvester just so I can demonstrate. We hit V to lower that, B to turn that on, and again, I forgot to turn on the help screen with that. That you're just going to unfold it hitting X, and then you're going to lower the front header like a combine, and then hit with using the key V as in Victor, and then you're going to hit B as in boy to turn the harvester on. So this is just going to remove tops. It's not actually going to harvest. But as you can see, we can drive over those which have the tops removed. So that's what's going to show up now as being ready to harvest if we back up here. So, and this will work both ways. So just like that. We go into the menu, now you can see that that area is ready to be harvested because the tops have been removed. We look up to here, we can go back to the harvester. That will raise it up, but we'd hit V to lower it and hit B to turn it on. And we can hire a worker to do this, so I'll get up to about here and I'll just hire a worker to go ahead and do this. As you can see, we are picking up sugar beets. And quite a few. So I'll unhire him and let him sit there. I hop back over in here just for demonstration's sake. You can hit X to fold it back up, X to unfold it, V to lower the header in the front. If it's going to let me do it, there we go. Get over to the header. V to lower the header in the front, B to turn on the combine or the harvester, and then go forward. And now you're harvesting. And this is just me harvesting by hand. Be careful. Obviously, you want to try to keep straight rows so you're not destroying the crops, but this thing has a pretty good turning radius. Now, obviously, I don't advocate that you harvest your crops that way, but you can if you would like to. So again, we just barely did a little bit there, and we already have almost 5,000 liters. So if I hit O, that's going to extend the pipe out, and it works the same way on that harvester there. So perfect, the pipe's extended. So what we're going to do now, turn off the help screen for a moment. We're going to hop into this tractor, and we're going to go ahead and unload the sugar beets into this trailer. Just like that, and they'll go into the trailer, no problems. All right, give me 1 second to set up for using the load from ground tool here, this guy, and right in front of us, this guy over here. I'll set up to use that, and I'll bring you guys back in. All right, so I have this piece of equipment unfolded. And again, it folds up nice and tidy. I'll let it fold up for a second just so you can see. And essentially, this object off to the side here, that's just a counterweight. That's the chute where the pipes or the sugar beets are going to come out, and then that's the front header there. All right, you get the point. It's going to fold up in front. It's going to look nice. I'll turn on the help screen for this. If we hold down the right mouse button, we will be able to swing the pipe around once it unfolds. So there's how you're going to move the pipe around. The counterbalance will follow it. So you can kind of track the trailer with that. So if I hit the left mouse button, it gives you a little bit more functionality to it. You can raise it, lower it, do whatever you want with it. So makes sense. Pretty easy how that goes. Let's go ahead and pick these sugar beets off the ground. There's 100,000 liters right in front of us here on the ground. So we'll go ahead and pick these guys up using our trailer function here. So if I hit V, that's going to lower the front header, and I hit B to turn it on, and again, it's already picking them up. So it's going to load a certain number of them without having to tip. But if we go over this trailer, we can hit I to unload them into the trailer, and we can hit I again to stop. So there you have it. It's just that simple. It's picking them up off the ground and loading them into a trailer. So if you're going to do sugar beets on a massive scale, this might be a useful piece of equipment for you. But again, it's not required. It is very expensive. And again, I could load a different portion of that trailer if I needed to, or whatever the case may be. Works out pretty well. So again, this amount of sugar beets is not going to fit in this trailer, but we could keep going to fill it up. All right, and I'll turn that off right there. So as far as sugar beets go, you get obviously a massive harvest out of them. But if we look into here, like just the pricing here at a store here, sugar beets, I mean, the price is going down. $2.29 per 1,000 liters is not very high. I mean, potatoes aren't very high for sure, but sugar beets, you're going to get more than potatoes off of the ground or off of the field that you're working with. However, you're not going to get a very high price for them. That's why you get so many of them. So it's basically you're getting a high quantity of a low value crop, and that's how you're going to make your money on sugar beets. So there you have it. Well, folks, if you enjoyed this video, please drop a like down below. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button up on the screen to join the channel. And again, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, or tips for me about sugar beets, please drop them down below in the comment section. Thank you guys, and thank you for watching.